Harley Quinn Season 3 was back again this week on the HBO Max app for a brand new episode entitled Another Sharkly Adventure. I'm Cave Joel, and this is the video series where I give my thoughts and feelings on the episode that was, while also shouting out any comic book Easter eggs or references I can find. So with all that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? As we join the episode, Harley and Ivy are still on the trail of Frank the Plant. They know Bruce Wayne was the one who kidnapped him, but they can't seem to find where he's being held. Worse still, every time Ivy goes deep into the green, she ends up making herself sick and losing control over her plant-based powers. This means if Harley is going to kidnap Bruce and make him talk, she's going to have to do it on her own this time. Well, she doesn't want to do it on her own, it's just that everyone else in the crew is busy with their own side plots, and Catwoman doesn't want anything to do with Bruce after they broke up. Guess Music Meister wasn't nearly as good at his job as he thought he was, and giving their romance a second shot didn't take like I assumed it was gonna. I do, however, find it very interesting from a character standpoint that Selina is super cool with Harley trying to kidnap Bruce but won't out his secret identity as Batman to her, even in anger, which might imply that she still cares for Bruce, or at the very least has a certain level of respect for him. Speaking of Bruce, he isn't taking the breakup well at all. The visual gag of post-heartbreak Bruce complete with shaggy beard, bat sweater, and guitar is pure comedy gold. Batgirl tries her best to get Bruce out of his funk and onto a case involving a brand new set of high-fashion hats that are so clearly part of a much bigger Mad Hatter scheme, but neither Batman nor Nightwing for that matter want any part to do with it, assuming that Tetch left Gotham a long time ago. Now, at the other end of the episode, we actually have a very fun and unexpected B-plot involving King Shark, who returns home to the ocean following his crappy father's death. Being the oldest, he would be next in line to inherit the Shark throne, only he doesn't want it. He wants to pass it off to his younger brother, Prince Shark, who is actually not a character from the comics, but sure sounds like he should be. Also, hey, points for keeping up the Hawaiian naming scheme with all the members of King Shark's family. I thought that was fun. Prince Shark you may or may not recognize because he's voiced by Gary Anthony Williams, a real legend. I promise, even if you don't know the guy's name, you most certainly know him. He was on Malcolm in the Middle for years, and his IMDb page is thicker than a phone book. As we soon discover, Prince Shark plans to use his new position of power to sell off the Shark's ancestral home to Ocean Master, aka Aquaman's evil brother, and yet another character who just so happens to be voiced by Alan Tudyk. Seriously, that list grows every season, and I know it's only a matter of time till we get an episode that's just 22 minutes of Alan Tudyk talking to Alan Tudyk. Now, all of this puts King Shark in a rather interesting position. He never thought he had much love for his home or his people after choosing to live his life on the land, but still he doesn't want to see it all bulldozed by someone like Ocean Master, who historically has always hated the Sharks. So he ends up actually fighting his brother for control, and man, it is a bloody battle. You can tell the animators were having a blast doing the whole blood in the water thing. It also gives Ron Funches, King Shark's voice actor, an amazing opportunity to flex his more dramatic muscles. And I gotta say, he does a really good job here selling the sadness of the whole situation. In fact, I dare say this is probably Funch's best dramatic turn since Fox in Final Space. And oh man, why did they cancel Final Space? That show was so good. I also find it pretty funny too that the B-plot with King Shark is what the episode is named after and not the main Harley story as per usual. Now, speaking of Harley, back with her plan is simple: break into the fancy Wayne Gala and grab Bruce when he least expects it. Only she ends up facing resistance in the form of Batgirl, who since the escape room episode has desperately tried to spark a friendship with Harley only to be met with indifference. In fact, Batgirl tried to reach out to Harley for help in dealing with Mad Hatter, only to be turned down once again. The show actually does a really good job once again showcasing how, despite being on two different sides of the law, Harley and Barb actually have way more in common than they don't, and when they fight, it's not just with fists, it's with cutting personal remarks. The best one is probably Harley calling Batgirl Gotham's hall monitor. Also, I know I certainly mentioned it in another video, but it bears repeating that Harley and Batgirl's relationship is a fun little reflection of the relationship Gordon has with Batman, only here it's Barbara who desperately wants the attention and friendship of Harley, who couldn't care less if she tried. Eventually, though, both end up getting captured by the debuting Mad Hatter, here voiced by Griffin Newman, another hard-working comedian voice actor who you might just remember as Arthur from that last live-action Tick show, which honestly makes a lot of sense to me because comedically there's a lot lot of tick DNA here in the Harley show. The main joke here with Mad Hatter is that he keeps swearing up and down that he's not another one of those pervy supervillains that the show is such a fan of creating, while also going out of his way to do pervy things. Personally, I'm a big fan of his coke nail, and yes, that is what a big long pinky nail is called, and yes, that is what it's traditionally used for. Which, you know, tracks because the prevailing cultural wisdom is that Lewis Carroll was drugged out of his mind when he wrote Alice in Wonderland. Again, I'm not exactly certain if that's true or not, but it's certainly what everyone seems to think. It's here too, at this moment, the show actually zeroes in on an interesting idea that I'm surprised it's taken them this long to talk about, and that is Harley even technically a supervillain anymore? I mean, Mad Hatter sure thinks she is, enough so that he lets her go while keeping Batgirl, but honestly, she fights more villains than she does heroes, she regularly saves the day, and that all sounds pretty heroic, doesn't it? In fact, maybe that's the real reason why Harley is fighting to keep Batgirl at such arm's length, because if she ends up befriending a hero, a member of the Bat family no less, maybe she really isn't a villain anymore, and if she's not a villain anymore, who is she? Hell, we even get to see the return of Dr. Quinzel, Harley's internal monologue this episode, something we've not really seen since season 1, probably because Harley hasn't gone on many solo adventures in that long, and she almost always has someone to talk to and bounce dialogue off of. In the end, after much thought, Harley decides that it would be wrong to leave Batgirl at the mercy of a creep like Mad Hatter, and so she does ultimately come to save her. The two team up and defeat Hatter's Wonderland gang, but just before you think Harley might be going too soft, she murders Tatch just to show that she still has a long way to go before she's anywhere near a superhero. Batgirl is also surprisingly pretty fine with the murder too, which is extra funny, maybe proving that she's not the hall monitor that Harley seems to think she is either. Furthermore, Mad Hatter, Mr. Freeze, the Penguin, and Scarecrow all dead in the Harley show universe. Man, they are not afraid to kill AAA Batman villains and actually seemingly keep them dead too. I wonder if that trend is going to continue or if the series is ultimately working up to some big Lazarus Pit episode, or maybe even the Harley show's take on Blackest Night or something. With all of that said and done, Harley is finally able to kidnap Bruce without much of a hitch, and the episode ends with the promise that next week they're going to start torturing him for information, which, considering they're doing all of this in Catwoman's apartment, is probably going to be a major issue for her. And so that was another Sharkly adventure, a solid workmanlike episode that does a good job moving the season's plot along. I had said before in other videos that Season 3 has really been Poison Ivy heavy, but here they go back to Harley mode like they never left it and ask some pretty big questions about her life trajectory without really committing to answering any of them just yet, which is fine by me. The King Shark side plot also ended up being a lot heavier and a lot more meaty than I thought it was gonna be. I like knowing that this late in the Harley show game, even the members of the crew can get their own big emotional moments and that they aren't just reserved for the likes of Harley and Ivy. But yeah, that'll just about do it for me, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and favorite. It really helps me out in this crazy YouTube game, and be sure to follow me on Twitter and social media so you always know when a new Harley video is dropping. Until then, everyone, this has been Cave Joel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.